Welcome everyone to our meetup. We are Agile HR Community. We are one of the best global companies that are delivering trainings, upskilling and supporting HR teams to modernize how they work. And today I'm very excited to be hosting our meetup with James and Sophie around AI development in HR. This is going to be a live conversation, a kind of a fireside chat where we're going to talk about insights, learnings, and recommendations, and just hearing the story of how Sophie and James have been working at Experian with developing performance management, utilizing both Agile and AI, Agile development as a method of working, and AI, of course, in the actual product. And this is me. Hi, Rena. I am the founder of Agile HR Community and one of the lead Agile enterprise coaches that work with global companies, global HR teams, and also the business side of things. So what we do at Agile HR Community is training. We're doing upskilling of HR teams, specific individuals or a kind of certain roles, and also full teams, leadership teams. And if you're interested for yourself, we've got a public training calendar as well. So we've got certain public cohorts running. We do Agile consulting for HR. So when HR teams want to look at new operating models, refreshing their take on how they work together, they need to start bringing in AI, they need to start bringing in customer centricity, design thinking, understanding the users better. That's what we are really good at, looking at how could we have kind of build a roadmap for maturity, different maturities moving forward with your HR team. And then we have these community sessions, which are peer learning sessions. Some of them are free meetups like this one. Some have a small price tag on it. But what we really want to do is bring people who we have trained previously, who've gone out and done something amazing or fun or something that we really think is valuable for our community, and bring them back onto Meetup to share that. And that's what we're doing today. Now we are moving towards welcoming our wonderful guests, James and Sophie. So our background is that I have had the absolute honor to train both Sophie and James a while ago to be product owners and Agile development to them. And they have been, so Experian is a long-term partner for us, and they are really moving into Agile ways of working. And we had Sophie and James on for a face-to-face meetup in London. Not such a long time ago. And I really enjoyed this learning that I got and that the crowd got. So I thought, well, why don't we bring Sophie and James also to our global community? A warm welcome, Sophie and James. I would like to hand over to you both to introduce yourselves first. Would you like to start, Sophie? Who are you and what do you do?
Nice to meet everyone here. My name is Sophie. I have been at Experian now. It's coming up to 7 years. I have to say it's gone very quickly. And I support leadership development globally. So although I'm based in London and you hear this British accent, I look after our global leadership development all the way from sort of India to America. And for this project and specifically, I also look after our coaching as well, which is kind of where Agile and coaching come into this. And I am joined by James. James, you want to introduce yourself?
I'd love to, yeah. So I'm James. I've been at Experian for about 14 years, and I work in the same team as Sophie, also based in the UK. But as Sophie said, Experian is a huge international company. We have about 25,000 employees across all regions in the world, and we support people with their data. We support companies with their data and credit referencing. I'm the Global Learning Technology Manager at Experian, and I tend to get brought into projects when there's a vaguely technical aspect to it. So Sophie and I work together on this particular performance project and work together with coaching every day, pretty much.
Brilliant. Welcome both, and I'm looking forward to the conversation. So as we have prepared for this, how it's going to work for everybody who's listening, we've got a few themes that we're going to go through. I'm going to be a facilitator, an interviewer, and maybe sometime drop in a few thoughts of my own. But Sophie and James are the centerpieces today, and we're going to start speaking about the product that you've built for Experian, both leaders and your colleagues. So let's start with Sophie. We're speaking about performance management. But that can be seen in many different ways. What was the problem that you were trying to solve?
Yeah.
Before even going to the solution, what we built.
Exactly. You know, I was just on a call just now discussing AI labs and problem solving. And it always goes back to, I always talk about that Einstein quote. Like if I had an hour, I'd spend 55 minutes on the problem and 5 minutes on the solution. And I think that's what like resonates here as well, is around, okay, what was the actual problem we were trying to solve? And it was a very human problem. So people were struggling with setting their goals and understanding how it linked to the organizational goals. And we saw this, we run a yearly survey and pulse surveys throughout the year. And we saw there was an opportunity to improve people's understanding of how their goals link with Experian strategy. We also saw some feedback around our performance management process being a bit cumbersome. I feel like everyone can agree with that one. And never heard. It's difficult, a bit challenging, and a little bit too much time spent within the tool and not enough in the conversation. And so these are sort of the problems we were trying to solve. James, would you add anything to that?
No, I think that was a great summary of the problem, to be honest.
Seems like so what we're looking at is really understanding how to set great goals and connecting those to the bigger goals of the organization as well, and keeping those accurate and up to date. I know that your organization is in IT tech, right? So you can't really even set a goal, or you probably prefer not to set goals for the full year, even that you need to have some moving goals and be able to pivot and change. How about that? Did that show up as a need? James?
Yeah, we already encourage our people to review their goals at least quarterly, either complete them and set new goals. So that process flow of setting goals and trying to link them to your broader organizational goals is something that people do 3 or 4 times a year. So it's something that takes up a lot of time, or did used to take up a lot of time. Organizational goals don't tend to change as regularly. They are much more metrics and EBIT focus, so they don't tend to change a lot in the year.
Sounds like you already went into, not from this very old school performance management, you were already in that quarterly cadence of people setting goals, being able to shift and pivot if needed. So
or trying to, yeah.
Exactly, trying to. But as you say, that is cumbersome. It takes a lot of time. So when you started then moving towards realizing we need to start solving this, James, how did you choose the development approach? Why Agile? Why AI?
So as you said at the beginning, we've been a long-time partner of you from an Agile HR point of view. The talent team at Experian is pretty much entirely Agile at this point, and moving to the wider HR team, hopefully, as time goes on. So Agile was the natural approach, obviously. We were pulled together into a project squad. AI came relatively naturally. We had already a relatively new AI coach that Sophie owned, and we decided to see how it would apply to the problem.
Excellent. So I'm hearing that, well, first of all, if you work with this kind of problem on the scale that you have, you probably need to take a stepwise approach. You can't really go back into your office and write a plan for the whole approach anyway. So I think that Agile approach was really important. Sophie, what would you say about the kind of choosing the Agile ways of working, which already was how you were working, and with AI development?
And I think just to add, it was also about, we always talk about everything we build is with our people and for our people. And so I think what Agile really gives us as well is this ability to constantly going back to our customer, which in HR is our employees, and asking them, hey, do you like this? Is it answering your need? How can we iterate it with you to make sure that we're getting to the problem itself? And something which I'm very thankful for James being on this call, because something that we were able to do with AI and with the coach is iterate in the moment with our employees. And being able to do that allowed us to kind of overall get to a solution quicker that we knew was right, because our employees agreed with it and because they built it with us.
So you mentioned a word called co-create and co-design. Actually have people who have the problem or are using this or should be using this tool together with you in the room and start hacking away, trying things out. Can you talk about what that looked like, if you start, Sophie, around that?
Yeah, so we were very lucky in that we were offered like a 2-week sprint to solve this. And so we came out of the day-to-day work and we focused 2 weeks on how can we have our coach ready for performance management. And so what we were able to do is start the week with a vanilla coach, didn't know anything. And with James's amazing prompting skills, teach it just a little bit every single day. And we spoke with our customers, our employees, every single day to ask them, hey, is this working? Do you like it? What would you change? What would be different? And like with the beauty of time zones as well, in our UK time zones, we were speaking to employees. Overnight, the company we were working with, because they were West Coast, made the edits. And then the next day we could try all over again. And so 2 weeks just really building something with our customers every single day, showing them the messy draft and having them feedback, just allowed us to ensure that everything we were doing was grounded in the need, and we didn't go off trying to do something clever that no one really wanted, which can be an issue.
James, do you want to share how that felt for you and your prompting and your technical skills there doing that?
It was pretty amazing. A lot of it went into the planning as well. So those customers that we tested with, those employees, we had something like 30 or 50 of them that were pre-selected before we got into the sprint. So they were people that were loud about the problem already. They were pre-booked. The person running our sprint had already pre-booked them all into their meeting. So we had this cadence already that forced us into a development cycle, which was fantastic. But it meant that the same people were seeing it evolve over time and were really positive about it. It also meant that they very quickly understood what was possible, what was the art of the possible, and came back with better suggestions and thoughts for us. But the prompting, the tool made it very easy to. I mean, we're all prompting nowadays with our assistants, but effectively we would build a 2 or 3 page prompt that I would put into the AI before we started the demo. And then we'd do the demo with it pre-prompted. And as Sophie said, overnight, as we'd refine that overnight, the company would then build that into the AI. So the next day we'd start with it already pre-prompted, and then I could build some extra stuff to put into it. And that Sophie missed out that on day 3, we delivered to our HR leadership team a demo as well, which was terrifying. But it went really well, and they were massively positive about it. But on day 1, we're like, we've got to deliver something in 3 days. This is insane.
I just want to take a step back and congratulate you and just acknowledge what you've done as a way of working here in a global organization with how many people did you say, James? You've got
25,000.
25,000 people in this organization, and this is how they work on development performance management, taking out 2 full weeks, running daily sprints, delivering something in the end of each day, having a vendor that has agreed to working with you this way, and also kind of coding what you were asking it to code so that you can see that real time in their solution. That is pretty remarkable. And having a HR leadership team also willing to come to a demo and seeing something which isn't even close to ready, it requires quite a lot of mindset shifting to have that all done. Sophie, James, what would you say about the mindset shift for people here who aren't working in agile ways yet? This sounds like a utopia. It sounds like a utopia to do it this way. Some people who will learn in our classes, and after we've coached them maybe to do something like this, they go like, we did something in 3 weeks that usually takes 9 months from this organization, because 9 months meetings over different time zones, you meet, you talk, you get nothing done, you talk again. it looks very different from this, like a focus sprint. So can you give some maybe tips or recommendations or kind of building trust for people who aren't working this way yet?
I think the planning is the most important part, right? So and I said it at the beginning of this question, that when we went into that sprint, so much was already planned for us from a point of view of customers, the HR leadership team, all that sort of stuff made our lives a lot easier. We could focus on the product. We didn't have to worry about how we're going to select customers to look at this. We didn't have to worry about trying to find time on the leadership team's calendar. We just did it. We just got on and built. Obviously, we'd already been given permission effectively. We'd been given the 2 weeks out of our work. We were shipped to London and were together physically. So that was the permission was already there. But it was still difficult. The HR leadership team, not all of the HR teams are agile yet. So the HR leadership team were coming from very different perspectives. So our leader, who sits on HRT, was very positive about the messy draft. Other leaders were like, well, what if you do this and what if you do that? Well, we've not done that bit yet. That's on the list. It's on the backlog. And when we come and see you in a few more days, we'll have something that looks like that as well. So, and they got it in the end, and it was really positive.
Sophie, to add on kind of giving people some direction or some belief in, it's actually possible to do that.
And James, I'm going to pick up one of your points, because I think maybe we're looking through it with rose-tinted glasses as well.
That's fine. You carry on, yeah.
Because on that third day, we did that presentation to our HR leadership team, and some of them were in the mindset of like, yeah, we're ready for the messy draft, and others of them were not quite ready for our messy draft, I would say. Yes. And they were expecting, Agile just means you do it quicker, right? Not expecting it done in 3 days. And so I do think positioning yourself at the beginning of that meeting and saying, hey, we are going to show you a messy draft. We know it's not there, but this is why it's where it is now. Allows you to manage your stakeholders up front, right? And bring them on that journey with you, because then they see the messy draft and you go back another 3 days later and you show them how much you've improved it in those 3 days. So I just think knowing from day one it might be a bit messy, and then building your stakeholders' confidence from there that you're working on it, it is needed. So I would say, yeah, we are coming at this saying, hey, we've done it, and it's very rose tinted, but we had some mountains to climb as well.
We definitely did. I think what was good is we had 3 really key members of the HRT were on our side, let's say. So, and they were the head of HR, the head of talent, and our HR chief operating officer were all fully involved in the project. So that was really good. But also, we knew which other members of the HR team might not be, because we were being given secret information. So we used them, I used one of them in the demo. They did the demo with me, and we used their data. So they prompted the AI. I sort of pre-prompted there, and then they went through the process. And at the end of it, they were like, this is amazing.
That was a very nice move by you, James, to take one of them to be trying it themselves. So when you're working with this discovery, you get a lot of insight. You will prototype each day. How do you really move those prototypes forward? You've got something messy in the start. You said 2 weeks time. How did that prototype come together and evolve? Can you start, James?
Yeah. So the coach itself existed already. So we say messy draft, but actually the coach is a product that this company sells. So it already looks nice, right, when you're in there. The biggest problem is that I'm having to pre-prompt it every day to build the prototype effectively. But each day that got shorter, because they were building stuff in the background, as Sophie said, every evening, which meant that when we first go in, it needs less of a prompt to get it going. And to be honest, we got to a point on week 1, at the end of week 1, where we didn't have to prompt it anymore. So it would carry out a goal conversation quite happily, because a lot of it was about making sure the goals were in our format, and it understood who Experian was, and that it knew our Experian way, our behaviors, those sort of things. In week 2, we focused a lot on this link to the what we call OKRs, the goals of the organization, and it recognizing who you are and where you sit in the organization. And that also, again, we followed the same path. So overnight we send things to the vendor, and they add them in by the next day. And to be honest, probably by the second day of the second week, we had something that we thought was pretty much final, and we were tweaking it then for the remainder of the 2 weeks.
Excellent. Sophie, anything that you think that the prototyping process taught you?
I think it's about probably trusting the process as well, not being afraid to show the mess, to get that kind of constructive feedback, because why are you there? I think often in HR we position ourselves as the experts in the room, and we position ourselves as like, hey, we have to know all the answers, we have to come up with the perfect product. And so changing that mindset to, do you want to give this a go with me? It's different, right? It's not what we're used to. And so probably what's taught me is this co-creation, this working with our leaders to ensure that, you know, I might not be the expert here, so you teach me and I'll teach you and we'll create something together.
And would you say, if you would now kind of look at where the product actually ended up, would you have come up with those features, those requirements, those nuances yourselves, given that you would do a waterfall plan?
No, like we didn't even know. So we thought we were just creating like a general coach, and then you get into the feedback and they're like, it needs to be specific to this, or it needs to have this, or, you know, the coach jumped straight into asking me what my goals would be, but I need some context up front. You know, all of these little bits of feedback ensure it creates like a employee journey that works for them.
I had the same yesterday. I had a brilliant idea about an AI service, tested it with the first CHRO, and got to a point where I was like, the first 30% doesn't work at all. So I need to shift that. So it's so good to just get on testing things and discarding things that doesn't work very, very early on. So that's learning that I hope that people will take away who are listening to this. Let's talk more about the product ownership side of this. So product ownership is a new skill or even a new profession in HR. Product ownership means that you're approaching things from a, you know, we're not going to build the perfect solution. We might build an 80% good. What are the features that we really need in? Working a lot with stakeholders, with prioritization, making sure that the team is prioritizing their capacity correctly to deliver the biggest value they can with the capacity that we have. So can you talk about the product ownership side? So for you, I think that you were the product owner for this product, right? What elements of this product did you find easy to navigate, to say clearly, you know, easy to prioritize, it's easy to navigate? What was more complex?
Yeah, I think when you show someone like something cool, like a coach, everyone has like very good ideas. And I also think everyone has an opinion when it comes to performance management, because it affects all of us. So suddenly everyone's an expert in performance management. And recently everyone's an expert in AI and what it can do and how quick it can work. And I'm probably feeling my own strength at the moment. We've been asked to do something quicker and we just can't do it quicker. Like we don't have that prioritization at the moment, the people to do it. So what I would say is like, it's a lesson in hearing ideas. And then for me, pushing back on my people-pleasing tendencies and being like, thank you, I'm going to add that to my backlog and I'll come back to you later. And also sizing the idea correctly as well. You think something's quick, you talk to a few people and you realize actually it's going to take a bit longer than you think as well. So I think for me, it's very easy to be open to new ideas. It's very easy to listen, to hear what people want. I love that part about co-creation. It gets a little bit more difficult when we talk about understanding the sizing. That's why I need James and our vendor to understand how long things will take and to say thank you and prioritizing that and making sure we're putting the right things forward.
Excellent answer. And I'm very pleased to hear that you have that stakeholder answer. Thank you. We're going to put it on our backlog and prioritize instead of saying just yes to everything. Something that anybody here can pick up as a good tip. James, product owner side, features, requirements, prioritizing, getting stuff value out rather than having endless discussions. Anything about that?
Yeah, like I completely agree with everything Sophie said. It wasn't that easy when we did this, because again, it was new, and people would come to us with their features, and it would be the most important feature in the entire world, and we had to have that feature. And the specific example is the AI coach is separate from our normal performance management tool. Is the only way we could get it to launch in time. So people have to take their goals and put them into the performance management tool to store them for later. And we were told it was imperative. The most important thing ever was to make sure that was automatic, that the user didn't have to do anything. And Sophie decided what we're going to do was test that with our users. So we had 3 different options, and our users actually didn't care that much. So the requirement came from HR, but our users didn't care that much. All they care about is creating the goal and then storing it. So we actually came up with a very easy solution, which was it would show them the goal, they copy and paste it into the performance management. And that cut down on approximately 4 months of technical work to get a link in place, because of all the various compliance and legal shenanigans we
still don't have the link in place,
which nobody wanted to do. But that taking it back to users and testing that feature with them, and sort of talking to them about, you can have it tomorrow and it does this, or you can have it in 4 months and it does this. They're like, we'll have it tomorrow. So it's made it a lot easier.
Excellent. And then you can also go back to your stakeholders and mention that you validated this.
Exactly.
And it's really difficult to sit as a stakeholder and have your opinion, we call it HIPPO opinion, highest paid person's opinion, when somebody shows you data that actually that doesn't matter that much. So well done. Well, then we go to the stakeholders. The different stages of building a product like this. AI development, everybody has an opinion. Performance management, everybody has even more opinions about that. How do we manage these main stakeholders and key users through the different product lifecycle stages, as in first getting to the insight, then design, as you did 2 weeks of design, develop, prototype, build, test, and also the release part? So Sophie, would you talk about stakeholders in the kind of early stages, the development stages over the 2 weeks, now when it's released and maintained?
There were many stakeholders for this project. And what I would say is, and I'm trying to think about, you need to know what your stakeholder is after when you meet with them. You need to go in knowing your audience. So for example, James and I went to about 10 different AI councils globally to kind of get this across the line. And some of them were very legal heavy, and they honestly did not even want to see the coach. They could not care about what that coach was, right? They just needed to know the legality of it. And then, but others of them were like mainly sort of AI tech people, and they were super curious and they wanted to get involved and they wanted a demo and they wanted to see it. And so I would say, when you think about your stakeholder from sort of sign off at the beginning until the conclusion, it's going in with a understanding of your audience and a goal of what you want to get out of that meeting as well. Because I can get super excited about tools. Like I could talk forever. I could do 1,000 demos. But if it's not going to, if no one's interested and it's not going to do anything, like why demo it, right? So I would say knowing what your stakeholders' needs are super helpful. And then also being, again, going back to that messy draft, I remember I had one stakeholder who asked me, why would I not just use Copilot? You know, what does this give me that's different to Copilot? I said, that's fun. Why don't we try this out together? And we brought up Copilot and we brought up the coach and we actually did the testing together, put in the exact same questions. And you get this moment when you show stakeholders this tool and their eyes widen and they're like, oh yeah, okay, that's the difference. Okay, I got it now. So it's like experimenting, showing your stakeholders, knowing what their audience are, knowing what they're after, I think is really important.
That is quite remarkable, by the way. This was a senior stakeholder, right?
COO of North America, yeah.
Yeah, senior business leader who you might know also have quite strong opinions, but when you take that opinion and say, hey, let's try, and they actually see it live, that is like super kudos to having done that. James, what would you say about the stakeholder work in an AI project like this?
I think it's really important to, as Sophie said, to know what your stakeholders want. Because if you go in there to do a demo and they want the legal opinions, then you're going to fail. And getting it through legal and getting it through our AI councils actually took a lot longer than building it. So we built it with permission that we didn't have to do any of that first, and we built it within those 2 weeks. It then took us, I think, 10 weeks to actually get it through our legal and our compliance processes. And a lot of those people, they did, as Sophie said, they didn't care what the AI coach could do. They care about how is it going to interact with our employee data. So when you go to those different, when you change from people who are excited about the tool to people who are interested in how it works, you have to change the way you're going to talk to them about it. And if you don't, you'll then end up making yourself a lot, give yourself a lot of delay.
I think that's such an important thing to kind of point out here. When you do AI development, quite a lot of HR teams are now in the early stages of inspiration and building some demos and trying things out and doing some vibe coding. And whenever we're going in for real, having an AI agent or an automated workflow with AI agents or AI, whatever, if there are other automation in there as well, we are impacting people's lives. We are impacting people's goals, targets, as with your case. In other cases, we're impacting who will be, the talent acquisition process, for example, who will be chosen to get a job or promotions or talent. That is where we need to be very, very carefully looking at these signs. I just recently had a conversation about this, and cyber, you will check cyber in a certain council, you will check legal in a certain council. You will even check compliance. I mean, compliance with the check the box, we're legally okay. If we get sued, we're fine. But then there are certain elements around the ethics, the humanity, how we want behavioral parts to be. What language do we want this this process or this end-to-end experience to convey? There are so many human governance and ethical things that we need to check for. Anything that you would like to say about that? Sophie, what comes to you with that?
We had a long conversation with our legal and compliance around the ethics of the AI coach. We had a lot of concern around if someone is mentally unwell and they're speaking with that coach and they threat to life or to others, what happens to that information? You can't just leave it within the AI coach, right? Like, what do we do with that? We actually set up a mechanism that if that happens, the conversation goes straight to our security team in North America to sort of deal with that. So you've got to think these things through when it comes to human conversations interacting, because you don't know where these things are going to go. And so it's really important that you think holistically about the people speaking to the coach. I remember when it went live, someone commented on our intranet, "Thank you for introducing me to my best friend." Oh God, that's so lovely. But God, that's highly personal, isn't it? So you think, okay, well, if someone's treating this like their best friend, it's like, okay, well, how am I ensuring that we are keeping it up to date, ethical? We have strong guardrails in place. So if you start talking to the coach about wanting to fire an employee, says, "Sorry, I can't help you with that. Let me show you all the other things I can help you with, but I can't touch this." So all of these things are super important, just to ensure that you can't test human behaviors. Humans do what they do. So it's making sure that you put the right things in place to support that.
Yeah.
James,
You've got to try and test it to destruction.
Oh, you tried to break it one time. Do you remember?
I tried to break it so many times, but there's you have to test it. So there's been a recent news story in the UK of a major UK company who automatically rejected a candidate because she was in a wheelchair. Because on the job description, it was that you need to come to the office. The AI decided because she was in a wheelchair that it wasn't going to be able to come to the office and rejected her, and told her that in the email that's why it's rejecting her. So obviously she's taken it to the Equality Commission. Anything that's built in AI that goes wrong will make the news almost immediately. So we have to be really careful about what we're building, test it to destruction, do as much as you can with it. We had one of our engineers test the AI coach, and they managed to get the AI coach to convince itself it needed to turn itself off. Which was interesting. We put some more guardrails in for that afterwards. But yeah, you've got to test it more than you would anything else.
So this is something that I would also say is you have to it's called white hat hacking. You have to be quite brutal and ruthless and think in horrible cycles to be able to try to brute force and test horrible scenarios. Are these going to go through this AI bot or not?
And just to like bring that to the agile conversation as well, something we talk about all the time is that this isn't a finished product. This isn't done. We are constantly, our new year starts in April. We're currently updating the coach with new goals for this year. We're constantly iterating, constantly developing it. And so when these things happen, as James mentioned, there's one that happened with a North America colleague, we were able to add more guardrails in that moment because we are constantly building, iterating, learning. So when our employee comes up against something, then we go, well, that's not right. Let's update that. We're in a space where we can quickly do that because we're already following this sort of agile methodology.
Exactly. That's an important point, though. That's product ownership for you once it's in maintain mode. You're continuously following feedback, where you need to jump on something immediately, where you can prioritize and say, we'll do that in a later release, so that's really good to hear. One thing that I think is important is to have proper professionals create that test scheme in what are the test cases that you need to do, and try to hack it. And it takes time, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The other
and you might have that in your organization already. We have QA in our organization, and they're amazing at trying to break things. So
exactly, you got that. But people who are not in the tech space might find. So this is something that we see quite often with HR folks testing whatever they've created. It doesn't have to be AI. They usually only test the happy path and create Q&As for any questions. We need to test like all of those ugly, unhappy paths as well. And that's something that is a skill. It's actually a testing skill. Like somebody said, you're creating a restaurant reservation app and you can reserve a table for people from 1 to 12. A tester doesn't even reserve a table for 4. They write a tiger. Or they ask, can I go to the toilet in that field? So they're really trying to break things. Or they write a number with 15,000, copy and pasting 15,000 letters in and see what does it break it? So that's how you have to think very wickedly. And then the other thing is the using of these tools to something totally else than what it's meant to be. I'm not sure if you're seeing that. There was somebody who said, why should I pay for my own AI monthly subscriptions when I can go to a hamburger chain's customer service bot? They've got the latest Claude there. So he's literally hacking away with the hamburger chain's customer service bot, getting the whole new model answering his questions. So are you seeing this used in a ways that it shouldn't be used, or is it really used for this target setting?
This was an issue we had at the beginning, before we did goal setting, when we launched the coach originally. You could do that. You could break it out of its coaching behavior and get it to write code for you. It was using OpenAI's model at the time, and it's something we reported to the vendor, and they put better guardrails in place. But yeah, you could easily break out of it when we first launched, and it's important. It's even more important now because of the high token cost.
Exactly.
Of AI. People will try and find a way to use your system so that they can save money. So yeah, absolutely got to test that to as much as you can. But yeah, DPD have the same problem, or did have the same problem their chatbot on the website as well at one point. So I remember talking to them about it. That was publicly in the news as well.
Super. So you're launching 2 weeks in, and then you needed to take 10 weeks to get it through the AI councils. Then comes the launch. What happened after the launch, James?
Usage exploded, I would say. So at the time, we had Copilot Basic as a tool that everybody could use as an AI tool. It didn't have a huge amount of penetration. Across Experian globally, we had about 2,000 users of Copilot Basic. Within the first month of our coach going live, we had something like 5,000 users. And for the entire performance year, it was the most used AI tool in Experian.
Wow.
It is, it gets a lot of credit. People talk about it all the time. Sometimes they talk about things that it can't yet do, and Sophie and I get stressed out about. And but it's entered the common parlance at work effectively. People talk about, that's the only time I'll say it, her all the time.
So
got told off by a very senior AI leader. It's an it because
yes, it is.
It's an it, because we can't give it a gender. But anything else about the launch? It was amazing, and I think it's because we were able to say we built this with our leaders. It's that co-creation that gives you that confidence that when you launch it, it's going to go down well. And we have a very high reuse rate as well. So people set their goals and then they come back again and again and again, because we're constantly iterating, growing, and having it support you throughout the whole performance cycle.
Yeah.
The day or the week of the launch, is it so that you set aside time to jump on those immediate issues that might pop up? Or how does that work, James?
So we had a lot of time, obviously, during the compliance testing to iron out some of those kinks, which was nice. But yeah, we were available during the launch window, and if I remember correctly, we did nothing to do with it. It was so smooth that we didn't have to do anything. I think, yeah, no, there was nothing. It was easy.
I am so proud of you guys. The product ownership, the testing and validation you've tried and done before clicking on live, and then sitting there waiting for problems that never occur. You've done a really, really good job. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So when we develop AIinHR, again, a mindset thing maybe to build it up a bit. Quite many people in HR, when they are in C of E's, they are developing a product, and then when the launch is happening, they kind of are asking the business partners to launch it, to start communicating about it, and then the HR services hand it over to HR services to be serviced and questions answered by Ask HR or something like that. But if you're an agile product owner, you understand there is a timeline after the launch that you still have to own the product. You still have to iterate, improve until it is in a place where you say, now it's only minor development that we can do certain times a year. We're going to look at those according to the data, but now it's kind of fully maintained mode out of my product ownership. When we develop these AI in HR, what do we have to remember post-launch as a product owner? Sophie?
As you were saying that, I was like, oh gosh, have we even moved to that stage yet?
No.
Like the world of AI is it's just moving so quickly. Like I feel like one thing we did last week is, so I had a 2-week break, as you do on an annual leave. Before I was going, like no one was using Claude and Experian. I come back and everyone's using Claude in 2 weeks. Like what happened? I just feel like it's happening so quickly. And so I think there's this constant need when we talk about AI and HR, keeping up to date, keeping up with the latest, because I think at the current speed that AI is going, we are still in this kind of iteration mode 1 year on.
Excellent.
And I think that's really important, is that I don't think that this product will go anytime soon into maintain, because it has to change to keep up all the time, which means that we have to keep up all the time, and if we fall behind, the product falls behind. Yeah,
this is intriguing. It's actually intriguing if we take a step back and think about the operating model for HR teams. The second you start bringing agentic AI flows, you guys now know what the agent or this tool, how it's built, what the logic is, what the guardrails are, how it's working. If you need to update it, you know the architecture behind. So it would be quite maybe not even good for performance or efficiency to hand it over somewhere else. So it seems like if you've got AI tools, the product ownership really has to sit where the domain of expertise also exists. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's it's not like a normal HR system. It's not deterministic. You can't say, oh, we're done now. We've configured it. Everything is working exactly as it is. I've mapped all the processes so we can hand it over to HR services. It changes, not every day, but like now, but every couple of months or something. There's a fairly major change to the AI coach. And that might be changes that the vendor makes. If they change to a different large language model, it might impact your flows, and you won't know until a user starts reporting it to you. You have to keep testing to make sure that doesn't happen. obviously with us, we have to continuously update our business goal every year, update our business goals and make sure they're there. Things we built a year ago are now out of date, or they were built badly at the time, or not badly at the time, but the best way they could at the time. But we're a year later in AI land, and everything has changed. So now we could build it a completely different way, and it'd be much more efficient. So when do we do that? And it doesn't look like it's going to move to maintain anytime soon. And that's probably a downside of AI development in HR, but probably the only downside.
That's a really, really intriguing thing. I'm going to jump on that and think about the op models regarding this, because suddenly you don't hand it over any longer. You actually need to own it. We need to have people who continuously work with it. And then that refactoring of the architecture as well. I mean, you said AI land looks totally different a year ago from now, as we all know. So what's the expectation level that the organization sets on it? Does it have to be top-notch, latest, or are we good with, something which is a year behind? Would it be okay to leave it here for a year? Is a question.
No, they're happy with not top-notch, but no, not a year behind. I know that we've had an underlying change to our LLM at least 3 times this year. And I expect that there'll be a similar number but obviously the vendor looks after that, thankfully. But it does have changes. But because the vendor lives in AI land, so they're moving really quickly. They've got new features every few weeks, and they're like, we want to show this new feature. So it becomes you're on it all the time. And it's like, well, I don't really want to see that new feature right now because I'm trying to do some other work. But
that's
yes, okay.
Excellent. You just need to look out for brain fry. I'm not sure. Have you heard about this? That people who are looking out for like 20 agents or 30 agents, they're literally going to have a tilt in their head because it's too much.
Absolutely.
Hey, good. So we are almost out of time, but what were the hardest lessons? Would you do something differently in another type of an organization facing the exact same need with the goals? Sophie, is there something that you would say, here's something I'd probably shift a little or do differently?
I think it's about sometimes definitely guilty of going after the shiny object, and definitely guilty of working with the AI, hearing what our employees need and going, yeah, but that would be cool, wouldn't it? And jumping on that and then starting to create and build without properly sizing it, without thinking it through. And then I don't know, a month down the line, I'm like, oh gosh, we're still building it. I didn't realize that was going to be the case. So I think there's this need of getting super excited, seeing the shiny object, and then stopping and saying, okay, hold on a second, what actually behind this? How long is it going to take? What's the build? How many people agree? And doing all that due diligence before jumping in is super important. And I would think, like, don't just jump on like, okay, I need a coach. It's like, what do you need the coach for? What's that problem it's going to solve? That shiny new feature, do I actually need that right now? And so thinking that through before jumping straight into action.
Excellent. James, anything that kind of final delivery lessons from you?
I think just the problem is the most important. As Sophie said right at the beginning, most of the time needs to be spent on the problem. We knew our problem was relating those goals to organizational goals. We also knew we'd done a huge amount of other work to try and solve that problem multiple times over the last few years. So we knew it wasn't a communication problem. We knew it wasn't a leadership problem. We knew it wasn't, we knew that the problem was the intellectual desire to link those two together. So we needed coaching for our employees. We could have gone different ways, but if I was in another organization, I might not know all those things. I need to know that the problem can't be solved a different way.
Exactly. Good. That's a really nice find. And now the coach, you went from having like goals to having 90% of people having proper, very well linked goals, right? So the KPIs and metrics are amazing. Sophie?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah, and we're seeing the percentage increase. I want to 8 points, James, I want to say. No, was it that many?
Yes.
From
on the engagement survey.
On the engagement survey, from I understand how my goals link to the business, now it's gone up by 8 points because of it. So we're really seeing like an increase there and people really understanding how what they do, it links to the broader business.
There is somebody asking, I wonder how we can avoid having risk where the deep expertise is held by a small group of people and would be difficult to pass on if there were changes in the team. So now we're coming into the op model, the talent kind of contract between people who own agents. It's a risk, isn't it?
Mm. And just because you can't hand it over doesn't mean you can't document. You must document. It's really important. So all of our flows are fully documented by the vendor, actually, which is nice. So we can pass that on if we need to. But yeah, document.
I also think upskilling as well, like upskilling the team. I'm trying to do a lot of that at the moment. There used to be people used to say, oh, Sophie, that means you're here to talk about Nadia. And I'm like, there's other things going on as well. There's other things in there in the AI coaching space. So I feel like it's about upskilling people to be able to have these conversations as well, to be able to use the coach to test it, to learn. So I think there is that risk of a small group, but once you are in a flow, other people can learn and be upskilled in this space too.
And I also think what I'm hearing from both of you is you can actually utilize AI for that documentation as well, right? So
Absolutely.
Following up a kind of charter of features, decisions, why something is there, what are the guardrails that you've set in? So it start creating that product document for you, I would suggest, or at least guess that that's something that. What about one last question that I think I have? Setting those goals on the organizational level. How does that flow? Because you can't just always link to the biggest top massive goals, 25,000 people. You need to be able to break it down to smaller ones. Where does the coach come in? Because you probably don't have vice presidents sitting there and be like, how do I break this down to goals to my business? But where approximately does the coach best come in? Or do they use that as well?
So the coach comes in really for individual goals.
Goals, right?
But the coach doesn't just know our organizational goals, it knows our business unit and our regional goals as well. So it has 3 layers of organizational goals in it.
Good.
And the coach will try and find out from you where you sit. So you'll tell it what job you do and where you sit, and it will go, okay, I think these are your OKRs. So let's match them. And we had we actually reversed the flow at one point, because we had at one point where the coach would present the OKRs and then you'd build a goal from that. But now it sort of talks to you about what's important to you first, and then tries to link that to the OKRs that it knows you have in the background. Because our users found it really weird when we had it the other way around.
It sounds like it's more human-centric and more kind of putting you as a driver in the seat rather than have somebody just tell you what to do. Sophie, anything added on the kind of goal, how that links to the goals?
Yeah, and it was a choice as well, right? So like our employees might say, hey, I want to link my goals. We have a matrix organization, I'm sure everyone is. So where do you want to link your goals? So you can ask, I want to link my goals to this business unit or to this one or in this space, etc., etc. So again, bringing that human back into the loop of, it's not just the AI saying, hey, you're in this business unit, these are what you need to be linking to. It's like, hey, let me know how I can support you. And so the employee can really get involved there and start talking to the coach about where they want to link their goals.
Sounds really good. Sounds like something we have waited for tens of years in this space, with not very well functioning performance management and goals that are always kind of a bit aged. So really, really nice to hear that. A warm thank you to both of you, James and Sophie, for taking the opportunity to share what your learnings are. I hope this has been very helpful for those who have been listening in. And I at least learned, again, something new today, even if I heard this a few months ago. And I really want to acknowledge how fab product ownership you've done. I just need to highlight that to the world. You two are top-notch, globally, acknowledged product owners in HR. So well done. Thank you very much for everybody who joined this call.